So hi everyone, my name is Fannie. I'm the Director of Machine Learning Products at RBC. So currently I lead a team of 15. They include data scientists, analysts, engineers, project managers, and cloud developers. My team's mandate is to focus on net new acquisitions to RBC. So that's more on the personal and commercial banking side. And some projects, just to give you an idea of what we work on, is we've been working on real-time models that we embed in our digital properties. So that would include our public website as well as our mobile apps. And these models will interact with our digital marketing bidding strategies to help with our client acquisitions. I'm also the founder of Data Six Consultancy, where my business partner and I focus with helping our clients on consulting on data analytics, science, and data strategy projects. So today I have the pleasure to speak to you about how to structure your MLOps team for success. Like Adam mentioned, please feel free to put any questions that you might have. I do have a full screen right now, so I can't see your questions, but I'll definitely get to it by the end of my presentation. So I did divide up my presentation into three main topics. So the first one is about talent acquisition. How do you hire the best ML talents? The second one is about now you have your people, what are the best team structures to have to optimize your output? And then the third section is more about management and just some tips here and there that I can give about managing your ML teams. So let's jump into section number one. So what I found with these years of hiring, there's just really a lot of different differences between titles and jobs. Um, this, I think, is usually caused because of data science or analytics. There's not really like a designation, right? To say like, if you complete this, you're a data scientist. So I find that when I'm hiring for data scientists, for example, then I might get someone that's very looks very different from that's coming from one organization to another. So the key thing to look for is to actually look at, what are they doing versus what is their title. One example that I have is um, a while ago, I was looking for data scientist and then, oh, sorry, data analyst. And really, for us, a data analyst would be doing something like exploratory analysis, insight extraction, data reporting, data wrangling. And we would get a lot of people who are really called data scientists in other organizations applying for these roles. And it doesn't really matter that the titles were different. It's just that you have to look at what they're working on and make sure that that's a match for your company. On top of that, just to make it even more confusing, there's different types of data scientists, I find. So you can have full stack data scientists, ML data scientists. You can also have people who are more focused on like NLP, search, Gen AI. So really look at what their experience is. A full stack data scientist for us, what we see is they can do end to end. So starting from ETL, data analysis, training the model, deploying the API, right? Whereas someone who is ML data scientist, they might be more focused on just the training part. So they do feature engineering, training the model, monitoring the model, exploratory analysis. So really, you have to make sure that you focus on what your project needs. So what type of data scientist should you hire? Um, if you look at the definition of what a data scientist is, you'll probably see something like, oh, they're 50% statistician, 50% computer scientist. Well, I would say that most of the time, they're not exactly 50-50. They tend to lean on one side or the other. So for organizations or your team who's looking to train and develop your own proprietary model focused on your company's data and something that is specific for the need that you're looking for, you would want to look for someone that is more based on the stat side. This is really important because you need to understand the algorithm that's being used behind the model, but also you need to be picking the right type of models to be developing. So I think that's really important, and this is actually the type of data scientist that we tend to hire as well. For some other organizations, you're trying to, let's say, create a product that is already pulling on something that is trained, like let's say ChatGPT, for example, then you might benefit from someone who's more on the computer science side. And they are great coders and can help you spin up like your back end and connect to these already trained models already. So really think about what you're trying to focus on, and then go out and hire your data scientists. So that's a little bit about hiring. And let's assume that you've already hired your team, or you're thinking about hiring your team. What is the best way that we can structure the team so that you can maximize your output? So obviously, it's over simplification to say that there's just two types of team structures, but I'm just going to talk about the two common ones that I tend to see. So the first one is more about a specialized project-based team structure. So here you can see at the bottom, you kind of have like your data team, right? You have your analytics, data science, engineering, architect, governance, DevOps, cloud across the bottom. And then they're kind of sitting as a different function. And then you have your business teams. And here I just give two examples, like your product managers. And how it usually works is that you would have your data specialists being seconded to these business teams, or they are doing like a ticket system, right? Like, you get a ticket from product team A, ticket from product team B, and that's how this team structure works. So I think it's suitable for larger organizations. Ones that are agile, you're able to spin teams up and spin them down quickly, and then ones that have lots of different projects. For me, I see that the pros of a structure like this is that you have really good technical oversight. So you have your head of data science, for example, who is very, very seasoned data scientist, is a good manager, and they can oversee the quality of that work really, really well. I think the cons is that you can end up with way too much management. Like you can see before there was just like so many heads. So when you have so much management, your telephone chain tends to be a little bit longer, right? And hopefully there's no broken telephone or inefficient telephone lines. But you know what I mean by that. It can be a huge amount of management. Because of that, though, as well, with the tech team and the business team being very separate, then you can also be a little bit more siloed, and that might make it harder for teams to communicate and also be very focused on the project. And of course, that can lead to things like lower ownerships or and also heavy talent investments. In contrast, there's another type of team structure that I also see very commonly, which is the integrated team structure. So here I have data strategists at the top, but it really can be like a product manager, or any business team. And then you have your data specialists being embedded into those business teams. So here an example is the data analyst, scientist, and engineering being embedded into the product team. So for this, I think it's more suitable for smaller organizations, and then also ones that have dedicated longer term data projects. The thing about this structure is that you might not always need all these different specialists, so then you will have to consult with your DevOps, your architect, or your governance who are outside of this team. So the pros of this is that there's probably higher ownership. If you have like your data team being embedded in your business team, then you probably say hello to them every day. You know them, you feel comfortable talking to them. The communication is a little bit flows a little bit better. There's technically more ownership because they will work on this project and they're responsible for it. What I find also, which is really important, is that the tech specialist is then just very, very knowledgeable about this business problem, right? For example, like when we embed data scientists into the credit cards acquisition team, they just get really well into knowing like who acquires credit cards, what type of credit cards are suitable for who, at what time, et cetera, et cetera. And so they get very obsessed with that problem, which is a good thing for creating great models. The I think cons of this is that obviously you can't have like, governance and everybody under the small product team. So you have to rely on other teams such as your security and DevOps. And it may not be feasible and productive if you have only projects that are short term. And then you're like, oh, I don't need these the data team anymore. Let's move on. So you do need to have longer term projects. So with that being said, what team structure should you use? I assume if you're asking this question, you probably don't, you're just starting out yet. So I would say, usually I find that organizations start off with, integrated team structures, a smaller team, right? And then as your data practice grows, as your data needs grow, then you will slowly like morph into the specialized project team structure. So that should come with time. And that brings me to my third topic, which is management teams for managing your ML teams. So just very quickly, if you're in tech, you're probably very familiar with Kanban and Scrum. So Scrum is more sprint style, 24 hours or weekly, whatever your sprint is. Let's get this done. Kanban is more flowy, where you have a to-do list in progress done. You kind of move it from each of these buckets. So what is the best? What have I found to be best with managing our ML teams? We use a combination of Kanban and Scrum. So the reason is because when you are in a team that can have developers and also analysts and data scientists, kind of a whole host of different types of people working under you who have different cadences, then it's really hard to just have like Kanban or Scrum. So what we do is we do something called quarterly big room planning. We plan out our features and epics for those who use Jira, the big projects. And then we work in sprints. So we have weekly deadlines. And then for the developers, for example, they can foresee what their weekly deadlines can be. They will put their tickets in far in advance. But for data scientists, for example, if they're doing exploratory analysis, they might not know exactly how long that's going to take. So they might create the tickets like just the week before and put that in. But the reason we have these sprints and weekly deadlines is because when the technical project manager goes to talk to the team, they have something to say, hey, you were committing to this, did that get done? And it forces the team to be very, very specific in terms of what they're going to be getting done in that week. So that's how we do it. In terms of stand-ups, we try to not have a lot of meetings. So instead of daily, you move to weekly. And I think that's really important to help your team stay focused and have more time to work on what their jobs. And then backlogs and retros. What I think for that is that it's really important to have the culture of having backlogs, which is to make sure you're organizing everything in the backlog, and also retro, which is the culture of having feedback and reflecting. But kind of manage the cadence appropriately so that it's not overwhelming your teams in meetings. And then last but not least, I just want to stress that one-on-ones for managers, I would say that's extremely important. For me, sometimes I'm on meetings 8 hours a day, but a lot of it is one-on-ones. And I think that's extremely important because you want to make sure that you're unblocking any blockers that your team has, and then developing kind of that relationship with the team and making sure that they can carry on with their work as efficiently as possible. So with that, I have concluded my presentation. Let me know if you have any question, and I'd love to answer anything that you guys have. Thank you so much.
Very good, Fanny. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you want to give your close your screen there, and I will ask somebody who's already on the ball there. It's time for the emoji waves, ladies and gentlemen. So throw in all the emojis so Fanny can feel the love. There we go. Look at all those. Appreciative audience members. Very good, very good. So yeah, let's open it up to Q&A. If you did have questions, cool. Sometimes we get heaps of questions, sometimes we don't. And I also am kind of cognizant of the time we have available at the moment. So when I want to ask you a question right off the bat here, when it comes to building a practice and kind of building teams, what would you say is the best piece of advice you have for growing startups looking to grow and build ML teams? What if you could kind of say lessons learned, don't do this, definitely do this. What's one piece of advice you would give for companies looking to grow their MLOps teams?
Oh, I would say make sure that start with your needs, right? You want to make sure that like sometimes people come to me and say, "Oh, I want to develop a data team," but then I would ask why,
Mm,
right?
fair.
What is your goal?
Mhm,
So start with that, make it, like for example, it could be for your product, like you want to create your data analytics to embed certain dashboards or business analytics for your clients, right? So when you know what the product you're developing for, then you would be able to focus on what you're hiring, right? For example, is it more business intelligence that you're looking for? Is it more data scientists, right?
mhm,
And it's more important to kind of think about that and what the end goal or that you're working into. Because if you don't, and then you say like I'm going to invest into a team,
mhm,
it could take a long time, right? And you want to
mm.
make sure that when you do invest into your data talent, that you're kind of seeing the rewards as well. So I think that part is really important to keep the momentum going for your growing your team.
Yeah, good advice there. And Peter, he's actually our next presenter. He has asked, do you think team structure has changed now that it's a lot easier to get good people?
Um, I think I definitely have a question like in terms of what do you mean by it has changed, but um, maybe just I'm going to assume that you're saying that if you are able to get someone that can branch across many different roles, for example, like you have someone who's a data scientist, but then they can also do data engineering and they can also do DevOps, like more full stack. I definitely think your team structure is very much affected by the talent that you're able to hire. Sometimes, for example, you might have somebody who is a very good at doing business intelligence, but at the same time, they can extract insight. And at the same time, they've also gone to be able to do some predictive analytics. So you might be able to hit off a bunch of different roles at the same time. And in that case, you might not need all those separate different functions, right? So that's a really good question.
Very good. And I think that will probably wrap up our